Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and as always...
Scott, hello.
Smooth. This week it is the end of month, and the end of month means we are looking at the news instead of reviewing an episode of Doctor Who. So, thankfully it's not going to be the entire day to listen to. It'll be like an hour or so probably.
How long did our movie one end up being? It was like 5 hours almost?
Just under 5 hours. It was like 4 hours 35 or something like that.
So this is a nice change of pace.
Yeah, it's great. The month of July, we've released, I think, our longest episodes ever.
Yeah.
Like our shortest episode we released in July was 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Wow.
And that was for Blink.
You mean August, yeah.
Is we in August?
Yes, we're in August.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
I don't know what time is. Are we at the... Oh my god, we're at the end of August.
We are. It's like 4 months till Christmas, my dude.
This month has flown by. Jesus Christ.
It really has.
Oh, okay. Right. Well, it's the end of August.
We've done like 16 episodes at this point of a podcast. Can you believe it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost September. Jesus Christ, that's thrown me for a loop. Shall we get right into the news with some probably of the biggest Doctor Who news that we could have ever possibly missed that came out right at the end of last month, just after we had either recorded or published our monthly news? Chris Chibnall hates us.
The news came out the day before the episode published.
Good.
And you were moving, so we couldn't do any last minute edits.
Yeah, too busy. But that huge news is that Jodi and Chris Chibnall are both leaving Doctor Who in almost exactly the way that I predicted Jodi was going to leave a couple months ago. If you recall,
I wasn't here, so I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't here.
Yeah, there is audio evidence of me predicting that Jodi is going to do one last season and then just do specials like Tennant and then leave, and that is exactly what it was announced that's going to be happening with Jodi. Chris Chibnall leaving was a bit more of a shock to me, honestly.
Oh yeah, but it makes sense. He's used to doing TV shows for like 2 or 3 years, so works perfectly well. It makes more sense.
I think it gives him the shortest tenure of any Doctor Who showrunner, and honestly, I think that that's kind of a plus. The way that his Doctor Who's been.
I think I've viewed his era as more optimistic. Like, I want him to stay on to get better, rather than I want him to leave to, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I want him to do good, but him bouncing out now, I think, is probably better for the show in the long run than him continuing to pump out lackluster seasons.
But I think this is the first time in the show's history, well, not the show's history, but since the show came back, but the previous showrunner hasn't been able to choose the new showrunner, which is interesting.
Yeah, he said that the showrunner doesn't have that ability or shouldn't have that power or something, because he's not choosing who's coming next, isn't he?
Yeah, it's basically because the show used to be under the BBC Drama Studio. But now that they've moved to BBC Studio as a whole, it's more of a upper power management that gets to choose the next showrunner.
The people who don't like Doctor Who.
Yes, exactly. So we'll see what happens, but yeah.
Yeah. Shall we go through some of the bullet points we've got for Jodi and Chibnall leaving?
Yes, he basically said he didn't want a job to cast multiple doctors, which makes sense. He just wanted to cast one of his best mates, which I would do too if I was running the show.
He's always wanted to have the female doctor as well.
Yeah.
So it's he gets to come in, make that bit of Doctor Who history, and then leave again. So fair dues, I guess.
He's certainly changed the most in Doctor Who in his time, hasn't he?
Yeah, and really not for the better at all. Like, female Doctor is good, but the personality she has is kind of like
And then there was the whole Timeless Child thing, which
Yeah.
I'm still cautiously optimistic about, because we did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
we
have-
did hear that this next season is definitely going to cover the Timeless Child, which is interesting.
They have the chance to do something good with it. They could twist it into something good, but it is currently my least favorite Doctor Who storyline they've ever come up with since New Who's come back. Like,
Yeah. I'm still cautiously optimistic. We'll see what happens. But yeah, he basically wanted to leave by 2022 because he wanted to be there for his wife and kids more, which is decent.
yeah, but he's leaving, what, 2023? The loser. Because he's still going to be working in 2022. He's got those shows produced. Because we're getting, what, is it 4 specials next year?
3.
Oh, good. Even less.
The new the New Year's special, the spring special, and then the BBC.
Oh my god, are we getting
100.
another Easter special? Are we getting another Easter special?
I hope it's certainly better than the last Easter special.
The last one was fine, but it was so long ago, and they only did it once, and it was such a weird one to do. It had the comedian guy in it, didn't it? What's his name?
Lemak? No.
That sounds almost right.
I know his name is Lee something. We talked about him before. He's a sweaty man.
He is a very sweaty man. It's not Lee Mack. That's a completely different comedian. I'm going to search sweaty comedian. Oh my god, it came up. Lee Evans. He's the first result if you search sweaty comedian. Yeah.
He really is. Oh my god.
Yeah, they should bring Lee Evans back. He's retired from performance, but it would be fun to see him come back. It'd be a weird cameo.
They should replace him with Lee Mack. No one would notice.
Yeah, they look so similar.
Actually, what does Lee Mack look like?
Nothing like Lee Evans.
Well, we're both white.
Oh yeah, because we all look the same to you. Chibnall also mentioned how the landscape of TV changed in the last 5 years to be more oriented towards streaming services, and yeah, duh.
Yeah. I think this is a conversation that's happening at the BBC as a whole. I heard a thing saying they're going to radically change Doctor Who in a way to be more up with the trends, I guess, with how television is consumed, which makes me think it's going to go directly onto BBC iPlayer, which I don't want. I don't want Doctor Who to be a thing that all 8 episodes drop this week. I don't want it to be like that.
Doctor Who BritBox original. That's where it's going. It's going straight on a BritBox to try and encourage people to subscribe to it, which they should. It's a great streaming service, but I can see in the next 7 years BBC putting Doctor Who exclusively onto BritBox and taking it off the telly.
Well, I certainly hope not.
I mean, it would be a convenient place to watch New Who, at least, because then you'd have Classic Who and New Who side by side. Whereas right now you have to go into iPlayer to watch New Who, and it's just like, iPlayer sucks. But
yeah. BritBox has Classic Doctor Who and Sarah Jane Adventures, while BBC iPlayer has Torchwood and New Doctor Who and Class, our favourite.
Yeah, I would
remember.
I would much
remember
rather
Class.
I never watched it because it looked bad. But I would much prefer to have all my Doctor Who in one place. And if that place is BritBox, I'm okay with that. I'd happily pay £5 a month just for a Doctor Who streaming service, which is essentially what I do already.
I honestly don't care, because it's just, what is it, 2 extra buttons to click on when you're moving from BritBox to BBC iPlayer?
But I want convenience. I want to click no buttons and for it to just be fed into my brain.
A Doctor Who streaming service would be great, though. You'd be able to add all the Big Finish stuff as well. It'd be awesome.
It would make no money. It would be the most niche audience you could possibly find.
True, but it'd still be hours of content. It'd be great.
He also said that production on the initial 8 episodes has wrapped up, and it took 35 weeks. Are we getting 8 episodes? I thought it was 6.
So 6 episodes in the new season, and then the extra 2 specials. But then the BBC convinced him to do the third special, so we got 9 instead of 8.
Right. Okay. So we've got 6 episodes coming in this season, then 2 specials, and then another special where she's going to regenerate.
And apparently they've started filming the regeneration special, and the rumors are coming out fast and wild. Apparently Unit is going to be rumored, so we might get Unit coming back. And David Tennant is also being rumored as being in it, which I don't want a regeneration special with a multi-doctor storyline.
Yeah, but they did that with... I could see it not being like a multi-doctor storyline, but more, you know, how when Capaldi regenerated, he was like visiting the First Doctor, and it was like at the moment both the First Doctor and him regenerated. It could be something similar to that. Or like when Matt Smith regenerated and he saw Amy, it could be like a revisiting memory or a recording sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't know, but...
Which would be fun, and bringing Tennant back is very much their way of being like, we need the ratings, please. Give us the mainstream appeal.
I think I'm just tired of the 13th Doctor being paired with the 10th Doctor now, because every time, like in the comic books and video games, she's always been paired up with the 10th Doctor, and it's getting...
But Broadchurch.
True.
I don't think you considered Broadchurch, Scott.
I did.
But Broadchurch. So you know but Broadchurch.
I did, sure. But we'll see what happens. We'll see.
Yeah. It makes me, if they're starting filming now, it makes me think maybe they've cast or know who they're going to cast to be the next Doctor.
Yeah, but they just came out. They don't know who the next showrunner is, so the next showrunner will know the next Doctor. That's how things go. So it'll be a long time before we find out the next Doctor.
It'll be probably about 6 months.
Probably, yes.
I'm going to guess about 6 months between the last special and the very last special is maybe when they'll announce it.
Yeah.
And speaking of showrunners, let's see if I can say this name. J. Michael Straczynski. I think I did. That sounds pretty right.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, who was the showrunner for Babylon 5, has been heavily rumored to be the next showrunner. He's been like all over news articles and stuff, which take with the biggest spoonful of salt you can, because they will make an article about anybody becoming the next showrunner. I'm sure they did one on me already. And I would be kind of excited to see what he could do with it. Babylon 5 is supposed to be a really good show. I've personally never seen it. I think the only thing that's going to hold him back becoming showrunner, he's very American.
Yeah.
He's not a Brit at all. He's an American. And BBC giving the reins to Doctor Who to an American, very unlikely. Although it would be kind of cool to get a new perspective into Doctor Who that way.
But yeah, he basically says he's contacted the BBC about being in the position of a showrunner, but the BBC are currently looking at all the other options first. They're looking at their shortlist, and if everyone on their shortlist falls through, they will go to him. So we'll see whether or not that's a possibility. So he has had experience on other properties before, where it's a pre-existing property with it, like he did episodes for the He-Man show in the 80s, Twilight Zone, World War Z. He wrote the story for 4, and he did work on the Amazing Spider-Man comics for a bit, which is a pretty good resume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he also co-created Sense8 with the Wachowski sisters, which is pretty cool. Not a show I ever got into. You get to see Martha naked in that show. So
great.
She's a lot of sex scenes.
I never watched a single episode.
I think the issue Sense8 had is it got cancelled before they could do a finale. So it's like, what's the point in getting invested in it now? But
didn't they wrap up with a movie?
Dunno. But I like the Wachowski sisters' work, so I'm sure it's decent.
Yeah, I'm sure. It does have its fan base.
Yeah, like everything.
True.
Also, in not Doctor Who regeneration, showrunner, earth-changing, earth-shattering, dimension-multiplying news, The 8th Doctor and the 11th Doctor and 2 different Rose Tylers are going to be teaming up in a comic book that looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about how I feel about the 8th Doctor and the 11th Doctor being in this type of story specifically, because the 8th Doctor doesn't know of Rose, the 11th Doctor is kind of moving on from Rose. I think it would be more interesting if it was the 9th Doctor and the 10th Doctor, because the 9th Doctor could see what Rose is becoming, the 10th Doctor would feel the guilt of leaving Rose forever.
Yeah, but what you could do is you have the 11th Doctor who has this history with Rose and this memories of her, and then this 8th Doctor who's never met her before, and then you have like a warring heads sort of thing, where it's like, what are you doing? Why are you believing? Because, say that Rose is evil or whatever it is she is in this story. 8th Doctor could be the head of reason, while 11th Doctor is like falling over himself, like, oh my god, Rose, you're back, I love you. And you could have those 2 warring personalities of the same guy. But I'll read the... what's the word I'm looking for? Blurb, I guess?
Yeah.
The description of it. Trapped in a parallel universe, Rose Tyler believed her adventures with the Doctor were over. Now, pulled by a mysterious energy into this reality, she must work with the Doctors to end the tyrannical rule of the warmongering Bad Wolf Empress. 2 Rose Tylers, one before she met the 9th Doctor, and one from a parallel world who stayed as the Bad Wolf after the events of Season 1. Photo cover reveal a brand new character appearing in the upcoming TV series. I don't need to read that last part. But yeah.
If you look at the picture below, it looks like... I don't know what this looks like. It kind of reminds me of Who's That Pokemon.
It does. Yeah, it looks like a weird rocky person. 2 people on it, almost.
Some people have been theorizing that it's a Sontaran, which does make sense.
A bit too blocky in the shoulders and chest.
But we don't know. We'll see the cover soon, but Sontarans make sense. We know the Sontarans are coming back for Series 13, so that would be interesting. A new Sontaran character.
Yeah, it would be.
Hopefully better than Strax.
This comic sounds pretty interesting. I feel like they're probably going to do a lot of cosmic-y, timey-wimey nonsense stuff in it. And if I remember it exists, I might pick it up, but more than likely I'll forget that it exists.
Yeah, it's out in November, so not too far off. I'll probably try and look for it in the comic book store, because I have 2 of those on my path to work, so it's no bad.
Best comic book store in Aberdeen, Asylum.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's the best one.
I miss Forbidden Planet.
How could you miss the crappiest store in Aberdeen?
I didn't mind it.
No, it's not a comic book store. It's a let's buy crappy figurines shop, and also we sell comics upstairs.
Okay, fair enough.
Terrible shop.
But yeah, this comic book feels very non-canon.
Yeah.
And also, speaking of the 10th and 13th Doctor, this is the same team as the team who did the 10th and 13th Doctor comics.
I never read any of those.
Apparently, they're decent. They wrote the 13th Doctor pretty well, apparently, and gave the companion some personality, which is interesting.
Impossible. Companions with personality? Lies.
But if we're going down this trend, think about it. So, 13 take 2 equals 11, the 11th Doctor. 10 take 2, the 8th Doctor, right?
Yes.
So the next one might have the 9th and 6th Doctor, which would be interesting.
That would be an interesting team up. I think the issue they'll have is soon it'll just be classic Who Doctors teaming up.
Which I would like. I would love it.
Of course you would, you nerd.
I want to see the 3rd Doctor team up with the 1st Doctor. It'd be so much fun.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
But they did the 3 Doctor special in Classic Who already. They kind of teamed up, even though
not really. The first Doctor.
Yeah, the first Doctor's on the TV screen.
Yes. Yeah, anything else to say about this comic?
No, not really. It looks pretty interesting. But we'll move into Big Finish news, baby.
And we're back to talking about the 6th Doctor. Again. Woohoo.
Yeah. 6th Doctor and the 10th Doctor and Weeping Angels. Calling back to earlier this month when we covered Blink. Where the Doctor Who Out of Time 3 It's called Wink.
Could it be any more on the nose?
I guess that's a good way of getting past the angels, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
But
one eye at a time. That way your eyes can get some rest.
Stephen Moffat says, but eventually you'll end up blinking by mistake. Because it's impossible to keep the rhythm going for like hours on end. You're trying, but you'll probably blink at some point.
Maybe, but I feel like if you're staring at an angel for long enough, it's your best bet is to start winking until somebody can come and help you. Like,
your best bet is the angel thinks you're flirting with it. You just watch as their cheeks go red.
Yeah. But this episode, this Big Finish thing stars David Tennant and Colin Baker. As we said, the 10th Doctor and 6th Doctor take on the Weeping Angels on a distant planet where no one has the power of sight. So basically, the entire planet dies. That's how that story goes.
Well, it'd be interesting to see. Do you need to have the power of sight to trick the angels into thinking you're watching it?
Yes.
Why? Why yes?
Because their entire movement is based on sight. If I was to close my eyes and go, "Don't move, angels, I can smell you," they don't care. They're gonna come and get me.
But you're still looking at the angels if you're blind. Even if you don't see them, you're still looking at them.
If I close my eyes, I'm still looking at the angel, but I can't see it, so it can get me.
Well, not if you close your eyes. You're not looking at it.
Sure I am.
My dude, you're not.
Is if you're blind, you're not getting the light into your eye properly, so you can't make out the image.
If your eyes are looking directly at a weeping angel and you don't see it, the weeping angel will think it's been watched.
I don't know.
Would it not?
I don't think so.
Well, I guess we'll find out in this story.
I feel like this would be a planet where everybody ends up getting sent back in time. Just constantly. There's massive overpopulation.
Well, do you want to have a bet on this?
I'm not a gambling man.
But yeah, it's an interesting concept. Anyway.
Yeah, it sounds pretty fun. And then we've got the 10th Doctor and the War Master meet.
A lot of 10th Doctor stuff, right?
Yeah, there is a lot of 10th Doctor stuff. He's been a busy boy, that David Tennant, hasn't he? In Rematch, the 10th Doctor meets the War Master in Self-Defense, as this article was titled. And this sees the return of War Master himself, doesn't it?
Oh yes, the first time the War Master and Tennant have ever met, technically, because when Jacoby and Tennant met on screen, Jacoby was playing a different character, so this is the first time actually meeting in person.
Yeah, he was the master, but he had his Time Lordness inside a watch or something. Remember those watches?
Like the only interaction the War Master has with the 10th Doctor is he yelled at him in the TARDIS for like a minute, and then he regenerated.
Yeah, it seems pretty fun. I think that this is perhaps the worst looking cover Big Finish have done in a while, though.
Well, it's a proof of concept.
Cover.
Yes, temporary. Yeah.
Yes. Good, because it looks terrible.
It does. It's basically Jacoby and Tennant standing in a ball of fire.
Yeah. Like, I could make that in about 5 minutes, honestly.
But I am impressed that Tennant is still really loving Doctor Who. Like, he's probably the most successful actor post Doctor Who, and he's still heavily involved within the show.
Yeah, it's because you can never leave it. It is a death cult. You are in it till you die, and then you'll be in it a bit more because they've got a lot of recordings of you.
Like, the fact that he's just so involved with Big Finish is impressive. But as we know, he was with Big Finish before he ever became the Doctor. Like, Big Finish was one of his first, probably, acting roles, which is fascinating. Apparently he played a Nazi.
Oh.
In his first ever Doctor Who appearance, he was a Nazi.
Well, maybe that's why Chibnall got a bit confused when he made Jodi's Doctor team up with Nazis. He was like, oh, but David Tennant's been a Nazi in Doctor Who before. He was a different character, Chris.
But yeah, good times to be a good times to be a 10th Doctor fan, for sure.
Shall we go through the releases of this month coming for Big
Oh
Finish?
yeah, certainly we've run out of news. That's pretty much all the big news of the month.
Yeah, there's not a lot of news.
Eh.
You want to start, and I'll take the second.
Oh yeah, we start off with the 11th Doctor Volume 2, which is not the one with Matt Smith. It's an impersonator, and have you heard this impersonation before? It's pretty decent.
I don't think I have. I don't think I have heard the impersonation before.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I'll send you a link. I want to see if your opinion of it holds up.
Let's listen.
No. This isn't real. Get out of my head!
It's not bad. There's a slight tang in his voice that sounds slightly the wrong accent of English, but it's a pretty good impression.
I like it. The same guy also does the new 12th Doctor stories, which I think is a much worse impression, honestly. But yeah.
Good.
But yeah, this box set has 4 stories. We don't really need to go into them. I don't think any of us will check out this box set in the near future.
Yeah, that's one when we're like, I don't know, 8 years deep into this podcast and desperately needing more Doctor Who content. The cover's pretty nice, though. There's a lot going on. There's this weird, like, pretty terrifying looking robot monster thing with a like green mouth. It looks pretty spooky.
Yeah, it's a crazy cover, isn't it?
Yeah. It's also a zombie behind Matt Smith, so it seems very horror themed.
There's also like a gopher of some sort in front of him.
It looks like a rat with a nice scarf.
Out of context, that's weird.
Then there's Torchwood Curios, which is during World War II, the Torchwood archive has been stowed away in the Welsh coal mine along with countless other art treasures. Bill Manger is among them, and there's something hunting him in the dark. Jill has been sent to catalogue the collection. She's on her own. She's in disgrace, and there's something hunting her on the slopes of a mountain. I'm not at all familiar with Torchwood, so do any of those names mean anything?
This guy, Billis... What's his name? Billis Manger. He was kind of an antagonist at the end of Series 1 of Torchwood. He could kind of time travel just by kind of blinking, which was an interesting character moment that went nowhere, as most Chibnall things do, but he was a weird character that never really amounted to much. He killed Gwen's boyfriend at one point, but then time travel happened and then he undied, so I don't know. I can't remember him too much. He was a weird character.
The cover art for this one's pretty nice. It's like a portrait of an old man, and the eyes being ripped to reveal a monster underneath.
Yeah, that's Billis Manger in the cover.
It's a pretty spooky looking cover.
He's a pretty spooky looking man as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to covering Torchwood when we eventually do that, which I think might be soon.
Yeah, the start of November.
I just closed my link with all the links that I needed to read.
Well, I'll do the next one for you. It's Doctor Who, the 11, which isn't about the 11th Doctor. It's about the character 11, which is a Time Lord who has all of his past incarnations living inside his head, kind of like a split person.
Kevin Levin's going to be in Doctor Who?
It's a deep reference.
Anyway, continue. I just wanted to make that one bad time joke.
It's the 6th Doctor versus the 11, a character who has all of his incarnations living inside his head, which is an interesting concept, even though it's kind of being done in Split in particular. You know that movie Split with James McAvoy?
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of been done, you know, the whole split personality thing, but I think bringing it from the perspective of a Time Lord adds a bit more interest to it, I suppose. You can add some timey-wimey stuff and different warring personalities, but yeah, multiple personality storylines all kind of end up playing out the same way, and have the same recurring characters that you see. Like, you've got the mean one and the innocent one and the lady, and things like that. But yeah, it seems like a pretty fun Doctor Who story.
Yeah, and there's a lot of interesting elements to this box set. It's got like, there's a planet with people in 2 minds where everyone has like 2 personalities, which is interesting.
If you go into the backstage click on it, there's a lovely selfie of Colin Baker recording his audio.
What a lovely man Colin Baker is.
Yeah. Shame his doctor's not super loved by anybody.
I think he's got more recognition now because he's the only doctor who was fired from the role because of low ratings, which is a big shame.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do we have next?
After that, we've got Missy Series 3, Missy and the Monk. I'll just read this first few paragraphs. Missy, no longer alone, unleashed and unfettered. She's stuck with the meddling monk in a TARDIS that won't fly without both pilots. It's a partnership neither one wants. The monk thinks Missy wants him dead, whereas Missy thinks the monk is annoying and wants him dead. The two Time Lords must learn to live together or die trying. That's a pretty fun team-up, Missy and the meddling monk.
Yeah, and it's Rufus Hound, which is a fascinating get. Do you remember who Rufus Hound is? He had that show on CBBC called Hounded, which is like a Groundhog Day show.
Never heard of him in my life.
He was also in Doctor Who Series 9 in one of the Me episodes, I think.
I'll look him up.
If we remember Series 9.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? His face isn't recognizable to me at all.
He might have been a lion man? Was he a lion? I can't remember.
Rufus Hound, Doctor.
Wasn't there a lion man at one point?
I don't know. No, he was like a smelly highwayman.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't recognize him. I don't even recognize that character, honestly.
I like Rufus Hound. He's a good comedian. Even though I only saw him in that one show, but he has a good facial hair. I like his
I like his nice mustache. Yes,
it's great.
I'm not familiar with the meddling monk that much either.
It's been a while since I've seen him on the show. He only made one appearance at near the end of Hartnell's era. His gimmick is basically travels back in time and changes things about history, and the Doctor has to stop them. But yeah.
Fun story.
And then our last Doctor Who story is... So, we do have the Clone Masters from Blake's the Seven, which every time I see that title, I just think of Doctor Who. I'm like, oh my god, is the Master going to be cloned? But
yeah,
no,
I'm not familiar with Blake 7 at all. They have it all on Big Finish, but I've never heard of it, and I don't know if it's any good. It looks a bit dated.
I want to see the theme song at least. I'm going to watch the theme song. I bet you it's like the cheesiest shit ever.
Probably. I recognize the theme song.
I don't.
It's a pretty good theme song, I think.
Oh, it's from Terry Nation, who created the Daleks. So I'm sure I'd probably watch that eventually. At one
How
point.
long till we get a Blake 7 remake?
I don't think we're going to ever remake it, honestly. I don't think anyone knows what Blake 7 even is, apart from like the nerdiest of the nerdiest Doctor Who fans.
Exactly, which makes it prime real estate to be remade, because you can establish a whole new audience for it.
The theme song was created by Dudley Simpson, who did a lot of Doctor Who music throughout the years, which is interesting.
Shall we go on to the last Doctor Who story then?
Oh yeah, of course. It's Doctor Who The Lost Resort, starring Peter Davison and Sarah Sutton. 3 new adventures with the Fifth Doctor, reuniting them with companions Tegan, Nisa, and Mark. I don't know who Mark is. I presume he's a Big Finish exclusive.
Yeah, I don't know who Mark is at all.
If you look at the cover, Mark is clearly out of place compared to all the other characters. It's like
He looks so
different lighting.
modern. He looks so
Yeah,
modern.
he does. It looks very strange. So apparently Mark was like a slave and he wound up traveling with the Doctor after being freed, and eventually turned into a Cyberman, which is interesting. But apart from that, I don't know nothing about him.
If you go onto the backstage and you look at the images of everyone that's in the cast of Peter Davidson, Janet Fielding,
my
George
God.
Watkins, and Sarah Sutton, and Matthew Waterhouse, the guy that plays Mark, George Watkins, is a giant.
He is. He's also he looks so much younger than all the other companions, which is wild.
I'll read the. This is 3 different. Scott, I'm not going to read anything. This has got 3 different stories in it. It looks pretty fun. It's again, the good thing about Big Finish is we get more Doctor Who stories. And, from the little I've seen of Peter Davidson's Doctor, he's a Doctor who I really quite like. So this will be one that'll be like, that's pretty good.
There's so much Doctor Who to get through, though. So, which one of these stories of this month would you listen to the most? I think I would go with Doctor Who V11 just out of sheer curiosity of his character.
I think Missy and the Monk appeals to me the most out of the ones we've gone through. I really enjoy Missy, and getting to see a Doctor Who villain that I'm not familiar with at all team up with her seems like a pretty interesting time. But yeah, just an insane amount of content from Big Finish yet again. There's a never-ending pile that's impossible to get through.
And if we were to buy all of this, that would be like, how much? 40,
40, 60.
A lot of money.
I'd say just under £100 for the lot.
Yes, that's a lot of money.
It is. It's not bad considering the amount of quality you get from it. But yeah, it's a lot of money to spend on audio dramas.
But I would love if Big Finish did like a streaming service where it's like a rotating bunch of stories and all that. Like every day they add a new story, take away an old one, so you get 30 stories at a time, and every day a new one goes and a new one comes in. That way, if you're interested in a story, Big Finish still gets money if you want to go buy it. But I think it'd be Big Finish really need a streaming service, I think.
Yeah, or to I think a streaming service would probably help Big Finish. Maybe even not without the rotation thing, and just have it all there for like say like £10 a month, maybe a little bit less than that. You just get access to all their audio dramas, because their audio dramas cost like £20 a pop, so they're really very narrow. When you're looking at one,
like even if they wanted to keep it so that all the stories in the last 5 years aren't on a streaming service, but you still get most of their back catalogue, that'd be ace.
It would be very, very, very good.
Because I think the reason why a lot of people don't listen to Big Finish is the intimidation about the price points. Like $19.99 to listen to like an impression of the 11th Doctor isn't exactly appealing to me, at least.
Yeah, and it's like £20 minimum to or sometimes they have like $5 or something like that to get into audio dramas. When there's so many of them, it's so intimidating. It's like, am I starting on the right one? Is this going to be good? Do I want to pay this much money for it? It is an overwhelming amount of stuff, and that's what put me off Big Finish for years, and the only thing that's getting me into it is this podcast.
Yeah, because I'm looking at this list. We got the 11th Doctor Volume 2. We got Torchwood episode probably like 55 or something. We've got Doctor Who V11, which is an old character who's coming back, so I would want to listen to his old stories. We've got Missy's Series 3. I would want to listen to the last 2 series. And then we've got a fairly accessible 5th Doctor Adventures box set, but I would still want to listen to find out who Mark is to get the full effect. And it feels like it's not accessible at all, really.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. I really want to jump into Big Finish more and more, but just these prices, man. I can't keep up.
It is pretty expensive. But good. I'm very glad it exists,
Yeah. Because Big Finish is what kept Doctor Who alive for all these years. I don't think if Big Finish existed, we wouldn't have Doctor Who these days. It would be just I don't know. It's great to have. But yeah, that's us for a big finish.
Indeed it is. That brings us to the end of the news segment as well. We've covered all the Doctor Who news there is this month. Not a lot, but the stuff there is pretty big. In the fact that Jodi and Chris Chibnall are both leaving next year.
Watch this. In the next 8 hours, we're going to have something big to talk about, and we can't talk about it because the episode is uploading.
Yeah, there'll be the new Doctor Who trailer. But that brings us to the end of the news segment, and I guess we'll just chat about nonsense for the next, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, when don't we talk about nonsense, Will?
So how have you been?
Not bad. Yourself? Have you been up to anything? I hear you watched the Suicide Squad, or what is it? Is Suicide Squad or Suicide Squad?
The Suicide Squad. And yes, I did watch it. It's got our Mr. Peter Capaldi in it as well. And it's very good. It's much better than the first one.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's a fun wee romp. It's not super serious. There's not a lot to dissect from it. It's just a fun action film with a lot of violence, just a ton of gore.
I can't wait. And I keep on meaning to watch it, but I never have enough time to watch it. I might watch it this weekend, but we'll see. There's never enough time, is there?
You find 2 hours to go sit in the cinema. I think it's worth it.
Great. I should watch it, yeah. I wasn't a fan of the last one. It was shit.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was
the first one was the first midnight premiere I watched, and I hated it.
It was the last DC film I saw in cinema.
Well, that's a shame.
Before just now with the Suicide Squad.
You missed out on some great DC movies. Shazam was good. You should watch. You're shaking your head. Watch Shazam, my dude.
I don't believe I did miss out on many great DC movies because I've seen most of them since then.
Joker was pretty decent.
Oh, I saw Joker in cinema. I was counting DC Universe. So I never bothered to see Wonder Woman, and then I never bothered to see the sequel, which was apparently terrible.
Yes.
I didn't bother to see Justice League, which was apparently terrible, and then I watched the Snyder Cut and was like, yeah, that was pretty good.
I disagree with you about the Snyder Cut.
No, it was pretty good. Batman v Superman I saw in cinema because it came out before Suicide Squad. Yeah, DC just don't know what they're doing, and it's a bit of a mess. But
you should watch Birds of Prey. It's pretty fun as well.
Oh yeah, that was also supposed to be kind of bad though.
It's okay. It's okay. There's a sandwich in it that looks delicious.
I'm hungry. I haven't had lunch.
I'm hungry too, but it's because I'm Scott. I'm always hungry.
Yeah, but I honestly don't have that much going on at the moment. I've just been playing so much video games.
Have you had the chance to watch the Sarah Jane Adventures on BritBox yet?
I haven't. I'm holding off watching them until, spoiler alert, we cover them on the Doctor Who pod in a couple months' time.
Yes. I've watched the first 2 episodes and they're really good. They hold up really well.
I'm glad. I'm glad. And the kid doesn't have a belly button.
That's all you remember. Yes.
That is one of the main plot points I remember. And they have the secret base in the attic or something.
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Yes. Those are the few things I remember from watching that show when I was a kid.
And Mr. Smith gets the same fanfare every single episode. You have to. There's 20 seconds where Mr. Smith is just coming out to the wall with music playing. It's great.
They have to fill the time somehow. Have you been watching anything recently?
I've only been watching The Sopranos and Sarah Jane Adventures. 2 shows that are very similar, actually.
Really?
And by similar, I mean not at all. But yeah, I'm near the end of season 3 of The Sopranos. Really enjoying it. Really, really good. Have you seen The Sopranos?
No, I've never. The film for that's coming out soon, though, isn't it?
Yeah, in October. That's why I'm watching the show, just to catch up.
Yeah, no, I've never seen it. And I'll maybe watch it if it comes to Netflix at some point, but
it never will.
yeah, Yeah, it never will.
Get a Now TV subscription, you doof.
I already subscribe to too many streaming services, so that's not going to happen.
Yeah, there's too many these days, isn't there?
Yes, 100%. There is too many. I started watching Gotham, actually. If you remember last month, I was saying that I
Again?
was considering to watching Gotham. I never finished it the first time.
Oh.
So I've started watching that, and it's pretty good. It's a very silly show. Like, it is very silly. There have been entire moments in it where I'm like, this is a bit of a silly show. Like, in one episode, a main character rips out her own eyeball.
Jesus.
We see a character get turned into, like, a weird Stitch puppet thing. We see one of the main characters get stabbed through the heart and live. There's a certain turning point towards about, like, halfway through season 1 where the show just becomes insane. Like, and it's a real fun watch. It's also, I think, perfectly cast, which is really surprising, considering it's really not the best show in the world. But the guy that plays Gordon does a really good Gordon. The guy that's Penguin obviously is incredible. Riddler's great. The lady that plays Fish Mooney's great. The guy that they get to play the Joker, who ends up playing the Star Wars guy in the Fallen Order, I think the game was called. Very good game. Does a really good Joker, and I think honestly kind of an underrated performance for the Joker. It's a show worth checking out if you hate having free time.
You're somewhat convincing me. I've only ever seen 2 episodes. I can't remember why I jumped off of it, but yeah.
I definitely think it's worth rewatching.
I'm into silly, goofy shows that make no sense.
It's very, very, very silly.
You forgot to mention Sean Pertwee. How could you forget to mention Sean Pertwee?
Sean Pertwee as Alfred is also, and he does a really interesting Alfred. Unlike any Alfred you've seen before, he's a real hard ass, but he's really good.
Have you seen Pennyworth, which is like the Batman sequel where Alfred is like a secret spy, apparently?
Yeah, no, I've not seen it. I have access to it because it's part of a streaming service I pay for, the Stars Plus thing. So I probably will watch it at some point, but it's not on my immediate let's get this watched list.
Apparently it's decent, but I haven't seen a single episode of it, so who knows.
In other things, I finally, after like a year and a half of reading them and other books, I was taking my time to get through the series, but I finally finished off the last Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book the other day. And
damn,
what an ending it has. So Douglas Adams famously hated writing. And he found writing Hitchhikers specifically really tedious and painful. And for I think it was the 4th book, he only managed to get it written because his publishers essentially locked him in a hotel room and were live editing pages as he wrote them so that he would actually get it done. And the way the 5th book ends and it wraps up the series is very much, I don't want to write this anymore. The book is over.
in a good way or a bad way?
It fits the tone. It fits the tone of his writing style, definitely. I do kind of find it unsatisfactory from a story perspective, but also that's kind of the point. Do you care if I spoil it?
No. I'll forget it anyway.
Okay, so this will be the last thing that I bring up podcast-wise, so if you don't want to hear spoilers for the last book, you can stop listening now. All the links are in the description, blah, blah, blah. There's the outro for you specifically. But, okay, so the way the book ends, they're in, this nightclub, and Arthur is there, and his girlfriend sort of's there, and the alternate universe of his girlfriend is sort of there, and then also his kid is there, who's a fully grown lady.
Is the kid from the alternate universe, or?
No, the kid got made because Arthur was hitchhiking through the galaxy and paying for it by donating sperm, and then Trillian ended up going to a sperm bank to get a kid, and she ended up with his sperm. So that's how that happened. But the kid,
wow.
the kid ends up pulling a gun and going to shoot somebody, and Arthur's like, oh no, jumps in front of the bullet, gets shot, dies, and then the Vogons come and destroy the Earth again.
Wow. So it just ends with everyone dying, basically.
It just ends with Arthur dying on some steps after getting shot. Like,
Wow.
it's like it comes out of, it's like, what? How? What? Like,
It sounds like the ending of a second Planet of the Apes movie where the entire world gets destroyed by the atomic bomb out of nowhere. Every character just dies unceremoniously.
yeah, it's a very interesting ending that I need to think more about. I think I kind of like it. It fits the tone really well of Hitchhikers and of Douglas Adams' writing style, but also it is like just a like what was the point? And I guess that's the point. Is there is no real point? Yeah.
Well, what is the meaning of life? 42. We know that much.
Yeah. Which is the name of the nightclub where he gets killed in, by the way.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
That's the name of a Doctor Who episode as well, written by Chris Chibnall.
Yeah. But yeah, that I'm glad I read the series, and I'm glad I took my time with it. I think if I binged all 5 books back to back, I would be so unhappy with that ending.
Yeah.
But what I did is I read the first book, then I read a different book, then I would read the second book, then I'd read a different book, then I'd read so I was doing it like a book at a time, and while reading a book in between. I like reading, and it was I'm done with it, and I need to decide if I'm going to go through another series soon. Right now I'm reading Jeremy Scott's autobiography, which is good. I really like him. He's the voice of CinemaSins, if you don't know who he is. I've read all of his books that he's written. He's got a series about disabled superheroes called The Ables, which I've read since the first book was published. I think the 4th book just came out this last year. Maybe the 3rd. I don't remember. I think it's the 3rd, actually. Yeah, the 3rd book just came out, and it's a very good series, and I'm very invested in all the characters, and I recommend picking it up. The Ables, very, very good. And I'm reading his autobiography, which is pretty interesting. And then after that, I don't know, I might read Antkind, which was written by oh god, what's his name?
Steve.
No, you're Char. He wrote Eternal Sunshine.
Chad.
Oh, what's his face?
Matthew Reid. SpongeBob.
Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah.
It's a book Charlie Kaufman wrote, and it's about this big. You can't see how high my hands are holding up because it's an audio.
It's very big. It's very big.
It's imagine very big. But it sounds pretty interesting. If I remember off the top of my head, the book is about like a guy ends up seeing the greatest film he ever made, and then it immediately gets destroyed, and nobody believes him that he saw this film.
That's an interesting premise.
Yeah, I think that's the premise. I don't really remember, but it's something like that. But yeah, that's what's going on with me right now.
All this book talks makes me think I should pick up a book. I haven't read a book in the longest of times.
Yes, books are great. You should definitely read some books.
But I can't read, my dude.
Oh no.
A very short episode, but I'm happy about that.
Bang on an hour. Look at that. It'll probably be a little bit less than an hour once I cut stuff down. But yeah, very short episode, which is a nice change of pace. But this has been Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast. Thank you very much for listening. You can find us on Twitter at WatchesDoctor, on Facebook at Who Watches Who, on YouTube at Who Watches Who. All the necessary links are down below. You can follow me on Twitter at Cloth223. Scott, you got anything to say?
Oh, next week we are doing Doctor Who Respond to All Calls. It's the new 9th Doctor audio adventures, which I've listened to 2 of. It's very good. Takes me right back to 2005. I'm very excited about covering that. Have you listened to any of them yet?
I haven't. I still need to download them on my phone.
It's very good, Phil.
I will be listening to them very, very soon.
And for the next 2 weeks after that, we are doing a very special anniversary of the Cybermen. The Cybermen are turning 55 years old, and I've picked out one of the best Cyberman episodes, Tomb of the Cybermen. Have you seen Tomb of the Cybermen with the Patrick Troughton?
Don't think so. I don't think I have. I've definitely seen clips from it, I think, but I don't think I've actually seen it.
Tomb of the Cyberman is wonderful. I'm very excited to watch that with you. And that's it for September. It's a very short month, which is great for us.
Yeah, Tomb of the Cybermen will be a 2-part episode, as all of our Classic Who ones are, because it takes us so long to go through them.
Yep. I can't wait. And that's everything I think we have to cover.
Yeah. So email us in at whowatcheswhopod@gmail.com, and if you've got any questions or Doctor Who comments or want to call Scott ugly, we'll read them out on the show in our monthly news episode. But other than that, thanks for listening.